Hello there everybody, Chris9017 here. Today we're going to look at some of my latest restoration projects that I've been doing during the COVID-19 pandemic. With strict lockdowns here in California and social distancing being an absolute necessity for the time being, it's given me nothing but time on my hands, and well, for the past few months, I've been working on 2 fixer-upper steam locomotives, and I'm currently in the process of restoring a baggage car. And here is one of my latest projects. She is a Bachmann Big Haulers 2011 260 Industrial Mogul. Now, when I first got this engine, it did not look like this. In fact, this couldn't be any further from how it originally looked upon arrival. When I first got her, she was missing her front pilot wheels. They were gone. She had her front handrails here caked in Gorilla Glue. The rear drive axle was bent. And honestly, the engine just looked rather sad and not very appealing. So what I did was I completely tore the engine down to the bare frame. Everything was taken off. Everything was taken down to the last nut and bolt. I trimmed the smoke box and literally cut it almost back to the base of the saddle. I took the original domes off and gave it the fluted domes off the 242 Columbian. The steel cab was removed and replaced with a Bonta wooden cab kit. The original stack was replaced with a diamond stack from the Bachmann 440, and the headlamp was a round visored headlamp, which I took off and replaced with the kerosene burning lamp from the LGB 260 Mogul. The smoke box supports were replaced by the cab support brackets off a large-scale Spectrum 260, the older generation. The flagpoles were taken off the newer Grizzly Flats Chloe and Olumana from LGB made by Marklin. The pilot is from the Bachmann large-scale 440. The oilers, the original oiler pipes wouldn't fit once I had the engine back together, so I gave it the drip oilers from Trackside Details. I added the front steam exhaust for the cylinders from Ozark Miniatures. I added the boiler washout drain plug from Trackside Details. It's got the metal builder's plate from Ozarks. And the dome that comes off the 242 Columbian doesn't have the safety valves, so I drilled holes in the top and added the safety valves off the original rounded dome. I also pinstriped the wheels and repainted them a gorgeous red with blue hubcaps and silver pinstripes. The sand line pipes were all repainted in a gold brass, along with the steam injectors and the metal handrails. It also has a front number plate from Ozarks. Also, the cab handrails, they came from LGB. I'm not sure what kind of LGB locomotive they came off of. It's possible they came off the Denver, South Park, and Pacific 260. It's also got handrails in the back for easier access for the engineer and fireman. And they're from the newer LGB Grizzly Flats Chloe and Olumana. I also added a, you cannot really see, but I also added a cab light. It's got a red flashlight lens inside the firebox door, and behind the flashlight lens is a light bulb for an in-glowing firebox. Down beneath the rear driver, up inside the gearbox, I put in 2 light bulbs, painted them orange, and on the bottom cover plate I drilled a hole and put a red flashlight lens there to give it the glowing ash pan effect. I also gave the locomotive a Pico smoke unit with a voltage regulator from Pico. It's got the wooden cribbing here from Vanta, and this is real wood, authentic wood, all hand glued into place. That is an LGB headlamp from the newer Olumana locomotive, and the air tank is from Ozarks with some handrails that I used for the air tank piping. And of course, I took off the oversized battery water hatch and put a much smaller one from Ozarks. And of course, if you see the volume toggle switch, I added the Phoenix PB17 sound unit. And this is pretty much the final result. Took me about a month and a half to complete, and I'm pretty impressed and quite pleased with the outcome. She runs great, she sounds great, smokes great. The only drawback is industrial moguls don't have a lot of pulling power. That's the only thing I don't like about this engine. There's unfortunately not enough room for me to put weight inside the boiler for additional pulling power, given that there's a motherboard computer right inside the boiler, so it doesn't give you enough room to add any weight, even though it has a die-cast frame. But it is what it is, and these weren't meant to pull a lot of cars in real life. But overall, she's a pretty good running engine. Alrighty, and over here is my latest project. It is a Bachmann Big Haulers baggage car, and you can see it's in the process of being restored. Upon its arrival, the frame was twisted and badly bent due to poor reassembly, so by taking it off the body, that helped straighten it out. I repainted the body of the baggage car this beautiful purple violet. The cab roof is red. It's got the beautiful rosewood interior that I painted on there. And the wheels are a beautiful gloss red with starlight blue wheel walls. The reason being is the plan for me to do is match this baggage car with this locomotive. Now this engine is literally my pride and joy fixer-upper. Her name is Locomotive Endeavor, in honor of a hardship I went through last year, as well as the pandemic we're going through this year. Endeavor means big accomplishment during a hardship. Last year I went through a lot of hardships. I cannot go into full detail, but this year everyone's going through a hardship with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I figured name it Endeavor in honor of the HMS Endeavor sailing ship you see here. And on the other side of the headlamp, it has my favorite space shuttle. Space Shuttle Endeavor. Like Engine 9, the small industrial mogul, this particular locomotive was torn down to the bare frame. Every last nut, bolt, and washer was torn down, and it was rebuilt from the ground up. The gearbox was completely shot, so I completely re-geared it. It was in the ugly powder blue boiler jacket, and it had a much lighter natural wood color. So I completely repainted it in replication of the Central Pacific Jupiter. This was pretty much the end result. You can see I also pinstriped the tender frame, green tender trucks, copper tender brake chains. The interior, if I can get you guys in there, can't really see it well. Sorry about that. It's got copper piping, chrome throttle handle, gold tricock drains, and a red firebox handle. Trying to make it as realistic as possible for an engine from the 1870s. I also added a crosshead feed water pump that actually works, and it's from Trackside Details. Getting that to work was a nightmare because I don't have a lot of resources. It just came down to a set of pliers and a Dremel just to get that thing drilled through and to working properly. I'm shocked I managed to get it to work. And of course, I did the artwork on top of the headlamp. The engine runs great, sounds great, it smokes great with the Pico 5-volt smoke unit, and of course the Phoenix PP17 sound unit. I also added additional light bulbs in the ash pan area to enhance the firebox glow. If I could run it on this track, I would, but my track is 1500s, and that's a little too tight for this baby here. However, it's perfect for my little industrial mogul here. You can see the ingoing firebox. Down in here are some of my other engines. None of these were fixer-uppers. You can see I've got Wendy Marvel, my beautiful Denver and Rio Grande Raton, my Grizzly Flats Chloe, and my NW2 Diesel. She'll be receiving a sound unit from Phoenix in a couple days. Very nice running locomotive. Gold walls, blue hubcaps, silver pinstripes. Let me see if I can clear out the stack. Yeah, unfortunately it won't smoke if there's too much fluid inside the stack. Hello, Herbie. Our friend the Love Bug decided to make a cameo appearance right by the water tower. Alrighty, looks like I'm getting some smoke here, so she'll be coming around the bend any moment. Yep, and she's smoking pretty good now. These two locomotives are not the first two fixer-uppers I've tackled. Tree Frog Flag Productions up in Santa Cruz may tell you that. His Shea locomotive number 1 was my biggest fixer-upper. My friend Mike from the Man Cave Railroad, his Heartland Lily Bell was another big fixer-upper of mine. So tackling fixer-uppers has pretty much been my specialty for the past 5, almost 6 years. I have a page on Facebook. It's called Mendez Machine Works, and there you can see pretty much what I do. I tear broken down wrecks of locomotives down to the bare frame, rebuild them from the ground up, and try to make them as good, if not better, than when they came out from the factory. I try to have them as mechanically sound as possible, add sound, add good working smoke, and any other additional features I can think of. I try to make these as realistic as possible, while at the same time try to make them as good and reliable as possible. This engine was a lot of fun to work on. It wasn't really that difficult. However, my other engine, Locomotive Endeavor, she was a lot harder to work on, but a lot more rewarding because I tried new things with that engine. Specifically the pinstriping on the cab and the working crosshead feed water pump on the right-hand side. This engine was pretty much a plain and basic locomotive, which I added so many features that you wouldn't typically get with this engine, such as the inglowing firebox and ash pan. It's more fun to make a plain and ordinary engine fancy than it is to make a fancy locomotive even fancier. However, you'd be surprised just how rewarding it is to tackle some of the biggest challenges you never thought you could tackle. This Locomotive Endeavor, really pushed me beyond my limits, especially when it came to the crosshead feed water pump. You're probably sick and tired of hearing me saying crosshead feed water pump, but adding that is pretty much a difficult thing if you don't have the right resources. And again, all those wood logs hand glued into place, the pinstriping on the tender and on the wheels, really big nightmare. Starlight blue walls on the wheels, starlight blue boiler jacket. This engine has the biggest color variety of any fixer-upper I've ever done. It has more brass fixtures and more features than any fixer-upper I've done. It was the most difficult and yet most rewarding fixer-upper. Again, if you want to see what kind of work I do, just check out my Facebook page, Mendez Machine Works, and you'll see where I first began. You'll even see the Shea locomotive I restored for my friend Trevor, who's from Tree Frog Flag, and my good friend Mike, who lives in Los Angeles, and for his Man Cave Railroad, his Heartland Lily Bell. If you have any questions regarding repairs to model steam locomotives, don't hesitate to send me a message. Well, I sure hope you've enjoyed seeing my 2 latest fixer-uppers, and I can't wait to show you the baggage car and entire train set for Locomotive Endeavor when it's done. You guys take care. Be safe. Follow CDC guidelines. Keep 6 feet apart. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face with unclean hands. This is Chris9017 out, and you be safe.